Very good evening, a warm welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, and once again, welcome to the office of Advocate George Carinos, part-time judge, godfather to my son, and most importantly, owner of a generator just down the road from where I live, because once again, the scourge of load shedding has kicked in across South Africa, and my particular suburb is a victim at this very moment. So no power at home, there is power at George's house. So that is where I find myself for an evening, which has me full of excitement and anticipation, because in 48, well, technically in 49 hours, I shall be jumping onto a plane and heading off to Greece for 4 glorious weeks. One of the joys of marrying into a Greek family is having extended Greek families to go and visit and hang out with. And so I will be spending the month of August in Greece, but you will not be able to escape me, because while I am there, I'm going to be doing a whole pile of shows from Greece. I'll be doing a show from my wife's village of Mavromati in the Peloponnese. I'll be doing a show from the island of Sifnos. I'll be doing a couple from the island of Milos. I'll be doing a show or two from Munevasia, and I will be doing a couple of shows from Athens. And one of those shows at the end of August will be in the company of somebody I haven't met yet, but I have chatted to on the phone, and I'm really looking forward to having a few glasses of wine with, because I've had his wine before, and I've had it in the very place in which it is made. His name is Yannis Valambous, and he is the man behind Vassaltis Vineyards in Santorini, the wine of which used to be on sale in South Africa. And when I say used to be on sale in South Africa, it was imported last week, and by today it had sold out. Ian Nodir bringing the wine in, and a wine that is in itself quite fabulous, but is also a really interesting study into what we might be seeing more of in South Africa as climate change kicks in and grapes that flourish in drier climes start to play a more important role in the possible wine future of South Africa. So we have Yannis on the show this evening as a bit of a Greek preview, but it's a Greek and South African preview, because he has got a couple of South Africans who've joined him for the harvest. And so we'll have a South African angle to Santorini, and I'll be talking to a third South African, this one closer to home, who's spent plenty of time doing vintages abroad, but who also has brand new wine just released. So there is a lot to talk about and to celebrate on the show this week. Before we do that, though, let's have a look at this week's wine news. Now, this was last night, and this was fabulous. The Old Oak, as you'll know by now, is a regular stop-off, both for me and for Dan Really Likes Wine. And last night, I joined some of the guys from DGB, Andrew Harris, who heads up the marketing team, Tim Hutchinson, the chairman, and Andrew had brought together a pile of wine and given that wine to Chef Ransley and told him to go wild. And didn't he just? Some Boschendal bubbles that kicked off with scallop cerviche, that's that on the top left there, with a little bit of bacon, and the bottom right that looks faintly like, all right, I don't need to, I think you know what I'm about to say. That was actually a mussel puree full of lovely rich ocean flavors. Next to that was some sous vide of Springbok. So outside of the game at Imbombela on Saturday, the best performance by a Springbok this week, I suspect. Top right corner, probably what the Kardashians have for breakfast. That's Wagyu with caviar. And then a lovely dessert crumble down the bottom. And the wines that went with them, the Boschendal bubbles, the Sauvignon Blanc actually went with a quail dish that's not in picture. 2 of those from Friars Cove. And Friars Cove, I think, an estate we're going to be hearing a lot more of, especially from their Sauvignon Blanc over the next little while. DGB putting a lot of money into the tasting room and the hospitality space, and it's an investment that we should be able to enjoy in the next few months. There's also some Chenin Blanc that went with the Springbok. That was the Bellingham, just glorious old vine wine. There was some of the Nicholas, the Red Blend, and the Roxton, which sat alongside the Wagyu. And then I did a mystery wine at the end. You can see that on the right, the Baxberg, a 2009 Cabernet Sauvignon. It had a little bit of age around the edges, but still quite fresh, and a fun way to wrap up the evening. So thank you to the team at DGB. Thank you to Ransley for a lovely evening. Then this is Harsendal, and they're distinctively shaped bottles. You can't miss them. The estate that sits in Stellenbosch, And yeah, just a really, really cool spot, which is doing some really good wine. And this particular wine won 2 golds. This is at the South African Wine Awards. They got double golds. This is Greg Sherwood, I think, puts these together. And so those particular wines, the 2018 Roussanne, the Sauvignon Blanc from 2018, and the Syrah from 2017. So well done there to Hazendahl. And then the Stellenbosch Wine Festival kicks off tomorrow as part of that greater Stellenbosch Wine Town, which started today with its first event. But the real headline piece is going to be the Wine Festival. It starts tomorrow, 4 p.m. till 8 p.m. Friday, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday in the Stellenbosch Town Hall. Most of the big guns out of Stellenbosch are there and are there pouring away. And there is also Bertus Basson, who's going to be cooking through the course of the weekend. You heard Bertus and Mike Ratcliffe, along with the team from Glenelly, on the show on Monday. If you're anywhere near Stellenbosch over the coming days, there's plenty of excitement, and that Stellenbosch Wine Festival headlines what lies in store. What lies in store now? Well, it's the chance to go to Santorini. But before we do that, my good friend Ian Nodir, who's been on the show many times, who is a fine winemaker himself, is an enormous fan of one of the guests we're about to meet. I suspect he's a fan of all of them, but one in particular, he made the introduction, and that's why I'm really excited to have him both on the show this evening and to be doing a show with him in person in Athens towards the end of August. But before I introduce him and say hello to the rest of our guests, here's a little look. We've got a couple of clips from Santorini. Let's have a look at the first of them to give you an idea of where we're headed this evening.
Hi Ian, hi everyone. Welcome to Santorini, the most beautiful island on the planet Earth. I am currently on the caldera of Santorini, the most famous part of the island, the cliffs that overlook the volcano, from which you can see the famous sunset. Of course, the scope of this video is not to advertise the sunsets, but to give you an introduction about who I am and what we're doing here with Ian. I met Ian in 2017, if I recall, in London during a tasting. And we hit it off straight away, him being a very big fan of Greece. He then pestered me for a couple of years to visit South Africa, which I did in February 2020, just before the pandemic. And that was the beginning of a special relationship with Nodia Wines, exchanging their wines and our wines. So our wines have hopefully arrived in South Africa, and soon we hope to have Ian's wines in Greece and to embark on this lovely journey of exchanging wines and experiences. So I'll be shooting a video later on or tomorrow from the vineyards, and hopefully I can introduce you to the lovely vineyards of Santorini and do a lovely Zoom tasting at some point. So I hope to see you all soon. Take care.
Now, if you're thinking they've doctored that video a little, they've thrown in some special effects, surely it can't look quite that lovely. Well, I've been to Santorini. It does look that lovely, and it is a wonderful place to visit, all the more so because of the quality of wine, and in particular Assyrtiko. So let's meet the man you've just seen in the video and his 2 South Africans, plus a third one who joins us as well. Guys, welcome. Lovely to have all of you on the show. There's a familiar face in Petri and our Santorini trio. They're a little backlit there, but those are 2 South Africans and a guest from the island. Guys, welcome, and lovely to have you all with us to celebrate a really cool afternoon of wine drinking, and one which I suspect is going to have 2 particular South Africans telling me that they're actually refusing to come home. They're going to stay in Greece and make wine there forevermore. Because it's awesome, and I wouldn't blame you at all because you're in a great spot. And one Yannis that is home to wine that I've drunk, not just in Santorini. I've had it across Greece. We've heard a little bit about your relationship and your friendship with Ian Nodir. Give us an introduction to Vassaltis, to your vineyards, and how you found your way into the wine industry.
So Vassaltis is
A winery I started back in 2014. 14 is actually our first harvest, and the whole idea came about due to the fact that my family used to own some land here in Santorini, which was planted with vines. No one in the family was in winemaking or viticulture. But when Greece found itself in a very difficult economic condition, and it was, we had to look ahead and see what would work the day after. I kind of I gave a lot of thought into starting a winery on this land. It was known already that Assyrtiko was a unique variety. I mean, we knew it, but we also had started getting international recognition. So for me, it was a very creative and very inspirational journey to embark on to start vinifying the grapes that were on this land, and to create something out of this place.
And what you've created, both yourself as Vassaltis, but also Santorini as a whole, is a wine and a region that have become synonymous for all wine drinkers, for a love of great summer white wine from Greece. This journey of Santorini becoming the home of a very sought-after producer of wine has built up very successfully. Tell me a bit about that story, about how Santorini found its place in the world as this wonderful home of Assyrtiko.
So Assyrtiko is indigenous to the island of Santorini, and it's been planted here from ancient times. In fact, the biggest part of the island's vineyards is covered with Assyrtiko by natural selection. It is thought that the Assyrtiko is the variety that adapted best to the climatic conditions. Santorini can be considered like a desert in the middle of the sea. As you can see, we're an island. You can see the ocean behind us. We're surrounded by sea, which moderates the temperatures, but the rainfall is very minimal. We get about 170 millimeters of rain on average every year. The sunshine is very intense. It's very hot in the summer months, and the only thing that saves us is this breeze that you can probably tell that is happening now as well. So this helps to moderate the temperature. All these very adverse conditions make it a very unhospitable environment to grow grapes. The flip side is that the grapes you get have fantastic characteristics. There's a very concentrated juice, there's very high acidity, there's a lot of minerality due to the fact that the soils are very poor, and all these characteristics end up giving us a very interesting, I'll say, wine. For many years, here in Greece, we like to drink a bit more aromatic wines, but I think it was due to the international recognition of the Assyrtiko that Greeks started drinking Assyrtiko as well.
And I suspect it's that recognition that has led to young South African winemakers to your door. Gwen, lovely to see you, not in a Haute Espoir context this time, but instead on the island of Santorini. Be honest with us here, Gwen. Was it the chance to work with Yannis and to work with Assyrtiko and to experience Greek winemaking that was the chief attraction? Or was it summer in Greece on a beautiful island? That sounds pretty cool, and I might just do some winemaking while I'm there.
Well, I mean, I think the conditions are just a bonus, but no, if I have to be honest, it's we were introduced to Yannis through Ian while we were at Elsenburg, and just the concept of Assyrtiko and the whole idea of the variety growing in these conditions really captivated us. We tasted the first wines that Ian imported last year, and we were hooked completely. And now we're here. Unfortunately, can't believe we're missing the rain in Cape Town.
Oh, you brave thing, toughing it out. Well, what have the first few months been like? What's the general impression, not just of Santorini itself, but of Santorini in a winemaking context, in contrast to life back in South Africa making wine?
I think, I mean, it's difficult to compare it to anything because there's so many different new varietals. I think both of us are still wrapping our minds around the new varietals. We read and learn so much about Assyrtiko, but now to taste it and to taste it on the island and get an idea of what all the different cellars are doing and what's being done here, it's a lot to process. But it's a lot that we can learn from and grow from. I mean, the quality of wine here is impeccable, and it's really something to keep your eye on.
A wonderful learning experience at all a whole different array of levels. What about you, Leandro, in your journey over? When did the idea of nipping over to Santorini for a summer harvest start to take shape?
So, like Wayne said, we got introduced to Yannis by Ian Lydia, and I've been harvesting for the last 3 years after I left Alsenberg, and I think the experience coming to Santorini, learning about something different, for me, that was stood out. So I jumped to the opportunity when it was there, and I came to Santorini to learn a lot more about Assyrtiko, since it's something that's coming up to South Africa a lot more. We're getting to the introduction of what Assyrtiko is. So yeah, we're here to learn about it and excited.
You've got the Chant now on the back of your last few years. I think you did some time at Tatora and there was Cedarburg, most recently Takara. It's now been a very different part of the world. Well, what's been the biggest difference in terms of learning the art of making wine in Greece as opposed to what you've been doing back home over the last few years?
I think this far, it's mostly the climate is a lot different. It's a lot more, the humidity is a lot higher. So for us, that's a big thing to adapt on. It's like Yannis said, the rainfall's a lot less, so you can taste the impact that has on the berries and so forth. So that's also something to wrap your mind around to understand what Assyrtiko is all about and what the varietals do in Santorini.
It's such a great experience for both of you, and we're going to learn a bit more about it in a second. You're not the only one who has done exciting harvests. So many of our South African winemakers have spent time abroad, including our other guest this evening. And we know from Pink Valley, but has got another project on the cards. Before we find out about that project, it's lovely to have you back on the show. Tell me a little bit about your adventures abroad, because you've done a French harvest, and has there been an Italian one as well?
Yes, so the first harvest that I actually did was in 2019, and that was in Sicily. And I mean, Sicily was amazing. To work over 3 different wine producing areas throughout Sicily was a game changer. And then after that, last year I went to France and I did a wine harvest in Provence. So I mean, for us doing the rosé at Pink Valley, it's the perfect way to go and steal with my eyes in France, in Provence, to see what I can use here to actually improve our rosé as well.
It's for me, it looks like the kind of experience that a lot of the rugby players I know have shared with me, where yes, they're going over to play rugby, but they're taking the opportunity to learn so much about the country they've gone to play in and discover the culture of Japan or of France or of wherever they have found themselves. Is that something that you set out to do? Yes, you're there as a winemaker. Yes, you're there to learn the art of winemaking in these countries, but to do that in parallel with soaking up the culture of where you found yourself.
Well, I mean, literally every single opportunity that I got to explore and to jump into a car, to drive to a different area or go and climb a mountain or eat some new exotic food, I took every single opportunity. So over weekends, I would go out and I would literally just jump in a car and hit the road and see where it's going to take me. So for the cultural experiences while working abroad, even if you're alone, is amazing because you're literally on your own schedule, on your own time, and doing your own thing overseas is probably for me one of the best experiences ever. So I enjoyed it. The cultural winemaking, the full package. I mean, just being there and being present is amazing.
And give us a sense for people who have never done this, and that would be most of us, how it actually works. Do you how do you get in touch with a particular estate, and how do you slot in as somebody who's brand new, and how do you be helpful and not kind of get in the way of a process that's already well established?
Well, I must say it's actually funny because my first harvest that I did in Sicily, so the group that I work for, we have a partnership with the Sicilian family, the Planeta family. And I mean, during that 3 months, I literally learned how to make wine with Italians waving hands and shouting, because for me, I can't understand any Sicilian Italian, nor could they understand English. So for the first 3 months, I mean, it was quite a challenge. I was mostly speaking to myself and just enjoying life in Sicily, even though you're just standing around and helping wherever you can. Where when I went to France, it was a complete different ball game. So there I was actually helping out with the whole process directly. So you were making decisions, being in the vineyards, taking it from the vines to the actual final product. But the easiest, for me, it was a different situation because the farms that I went to was part of the group. But like the girls in Santorini, I mean, if you have a connection, use your connection, take the opportunity, and really try and do harvest abroad. It's a learning curve, and it's amazing to be there and to actually see what's happening with their winemaking techniques and styles.
Which has led to you being the winemaker you are today, and not just the winemaker at Pink Valley, because you've got a new wine to introduce to us. Before we do that, though, let's jump back to Santorini and jump back to Gwen. What's the process been like, Gwen, in terms of settling in and actually getting hands-on? Do you get to really roll up your sleeves and make part of the wine, or is it more of a watch, observe, help out when needed kind of role? All right, just need you to unmute there, guys.
Are we on?
There we go.
Yes.
Okay. So we're very fortunate to be here where we get to be hands-on in all aspects. We have been involved in absolutely everything from analysis to, cleaning tanks, all of that, but that's what it really takes to make a good wine. So we're very fortunate to be here. I mean, every cellar is different that you end up, and it's upon you to make the most of it. And we're very lucky. We're learning so much here, and it's just a great place to be.
And in terms of a great place to be, Leandra, the Greek culture is one I know particularly well, having married into a Greek family. What is that aspect of it been like, discovering a different way of life and discovering the wonders of Greek food and Greek siestas and just this great, vibrant culture?
So I must say that thus far the food has been incredible. We are very blessed to have a great meal every day made by the chef of Vassaltis. So that's been great. But apart from the food, the people and their culture are just phenomenal. Everyone's very friendly, very helpful. The language is quite a barrier, but we are working around it and making it the best possible plans that we can. We've been learning a few Greek words, which we will not say on video, but for that, for me, it's been 2.5 weeks, and it's been an absolute blessing to be here and a great experience already.
What's your experience been like, Yannis, having these two South Africans? Have you learned a little from them along the way, as much as they've learned from you?
I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, this whole internship is about meeting people and exchanging cultures and making new friends and also exchanging know-how. So for us, it's great to have both girls here. I can tell you we've enjoyed a few very good braaibrokjes until the harvest started. We're looking forward to doing some more braais with them during harvest as well. We got some nice druivors they brought with them when they came here, some very nice South African wines. But joking aside, for us, it's fantastic to be able to host people from abroad and see how they make wine and to exchange opinions on how we make wine.
Lisa Harlow is watching the show at the moment. Hi, Yannis. Great to see you again and in Santorini. We'll never forget that amazing tasting you did for us a few months ago in London. And I think that speaks to a similar point that is made by the presence of your two South Africans, Yannis, that as beautiful as Santorini is, they're not going to be there for an entire summer if the wine and the wine scene isn't at a level that is attracting top young talent. And it's, I think, just a reinforcement, certainly from my perspective, that over the decade that I've been going to Greece every year, I've seen a huge improvement, first of all in the wine, but also in the industry around the wine, the quality of cellars, the quality of tasting rooms, the quality of the conversations going on around Greek wine. Is it a fair assessment that the Greek wine scene as a whole has undergone a fairly impressive improvement over the last 10 years?
Look, I would agree with you in broad terms. I think a lot of new efforts have sprung up. A lot of young people are starting to get into wine. Definitely technological evolution has helped us improve our wines. And I would agree with you that there's a sort of a spring in Greek wines, definitely.
And I'm going to, from there, ask for a few recommendations I get to Greece this weekend. But let me go back to Stellenbosch, where the chiseled figure of Mr. Venter has a smile on face, and rightly so. You guys took us by storm with the reinvention of the Thai-Bosch Crescendo with your cellar assistant Skulk. You then decided you could pull off a rosé-only estate, and you've done that with great accomplishment. And that would be more than enough for most people, but not for you guys. Tell me about the new addition to the wine family, Petri.
Well, the new addition we have is the Lashon. So, I mean, you saw a beautiful footage of Yannis sitting with the sunset. This is the next beautiful footage you're going to see on tonight's show. So this is our Lashon the Rouge 2019, which is our first release. So it's a South African wine with a French flair. And the main house for this wine is going to be in Stellenbosch, and it's going to be in the Polkadraai. So, I mean, if you look at the Polkadraai and the farms around it, you're competing with farms like Reineke and Boschkloof, Toren, all of them. And we're the new kids on the block, but I'm sure we're going to be nestled in perfectly, and we're going to take this opportunity by storm. So the Lashon it's a Merlot, Cab Franc, Syrah, and Sangiovese blend. So it's almost you can call it a baby Bordeaux with a twist, more Mediterranean style. It's a beautiful, elegant wine, nice finish, structured. The Sangiovese really imparts a floral character that's extremely inviting on the wine. And we're looking forward to see where this is going to go. Also, what we're going to do, we're replanting for the next coming years on the farm. We're going to slowly but surely replant 15 hectares per year until we have everything done and dusted, and in that we're going to use for this blend and for this wine. But the most important thing is that everything that's going into this wine is organically farmed, and we're going to keep with the organic scheme for the Lashon. As you can see, this roost there, farmed organically. This is our Lashon blend.
I think given a couple of your neighbours, you'd have to keep it organic, or you might have Reineke in particular coming around to have a quiet word. The wine that you've got there, it's a trio of the Bordeaux regulars. You've got some Syrah, and then you've got some Sangiovese as well. That sounds suspiciously to me, Petri, like you were sitting in the cellar at the end of a long night of tasting. You'd had a good few bottles. You decided to throw a few things together, and voila, it turns out that it worked. What was the real process to settling on this particular blend?
Well, initially we started off with a base blend, which was amazing, which was the Bordeaux varietal, so the Merlot, the Cab, and the Cab Franc. And in 2020, we actually had a new block of Sangiovese that we wanted to use, and we just wanted to sort of check out what we might get out of this stunning block that we own. And during the fermentation process, I mean, we were sitting with 2 tanks, and halfway through the fermentation, I told Skalk, let's go and taste the Sangiovese, let's check it. We need to check it because something is looking off for me. And as we took a sample, I mean, it literally, the wine, the color was pink, pink, pink. It was almost as if we could have used it for rosé. And Skalk and I were looking at each other like, okay, are we going to be able to actually use this in the coming year? And after fermentation, the wine just developed into this beautiful floral cherry blossom wine, which was a perfect extra variety that we could use into the blend. And when we started playing around with, I mean, the small quantities that are in this blend of Sangiovese immediately made a massive difference. So for me, the Sangiovese it's something different that's added into the blend. The Shiraz on the other side is Shiraz that we have on the farm, and we use this Shiraz after fermentation, and we put it in a foudre, and we put it in a new foudre for a year, and the wine literally just popped out as this beautiful Syrah that we had to use in a blend. We couldn't not use it. So now we had the Syrah and the Sangiovese, and we had our Bordeaux component already blended, and then we started playing around with different percentages, blending around until we got to our final blend. So the Merlot is still the base of this blend, and then Cab and Cab Franc is split separate, or split 50-50, 20%, 20%. And I mean, it's about 12% Syrah and Sangiovese combined into this blend. And I mean, nobody has really tasted it because it's a new wine, it's a new kid on the block, but the first time that you're going to taste it, you're going to see the difference that the Syrah and the Sangiovese actually brings towards this unique style that we're producing here at Lashon.
You've got a real philosophy of specialization. You only do the crescendo at Taibosh. I think that's mostly so Skalk Willem can still get in 4 rounds of golf a week. You've only got the single rosé at Pink Valley. Is this the same at Lashon, or are you looking at 1 or 2 more wines to come from the property?
So we have the red, the 2019. And then we also decided to bless our clientele with a beautiful Chenin. So it's going to be a combo. It's the Lashon red blend and a Chenin Blanc. Chenin Blanc is extremely small quantities. So it's just an extra for our very good clients, which would hopefully be all of you that are watching tonight. And it's a old vineyard Chenin, beautiful block next to a river, gradually sloping up the hillside. Extremely concentrated berries. We usually harvest in 2 sections because the section close to the river usually takes longer to ripen up. So now you're sitting with 2 components that each impart very good complexity towards the final product. So we're doing something extra, something special, which is going to be the Chenin, and we've bottled it. It's going to be released together with the Lashon red blend in the 1st of September. So we're looking forward to launch the 2 together. And I really think the Chenin came out beautifully, elegantly oaked. The rest is more like stainless steel. So it's a very fresh expression, or true expression of what the old vine Chenins have in Stellenbosch region.
Those are 2 wines that certainly the Chenin won't be available in huge quantities, but do look out for it. I think the Stellenbosch Chenin Blanc story is one that is getting a lot of interest at the moment, and this will add another welcome chapter therein. Corbinel is watching, a bit of a fanboy of yours, Petri. Petri, my boy. All right, cheering on. All right, Lashon winemaker. Let's go back to Santorini and ask about a couple of the discoveries that have been made. Gwen, you've obviously been drinking a reasonable amount of Sirtiko. Any other Greek grapes that you found that you've enjoyed that you thought, hey, this might be something we could look at somewhere down the road in South Africa?
Oh, I mean, Santorini has quite a few varietals. One that has stood out to us, we actually had a glass for lunch, was Idani. It's a white varietal, the second most planted white varietal in Santorini, and it's got beautiful floral aroma. It has that minerality to it, but the floral aspect of it has won me over. And it just, I mean, all the wines here at Vassaltis are beautifully balanced. They've got beautiful structure and obviously the acidity pulling them through. It's a varietal that stood out to me. Obviously, Aseptico has stolen my heart, so it's difficult to give credit to any of the other varietals. Sorry, Yannis. But if I had to pick one, I think that would be it.
And Leandri, for you, in terms of the wine that you've discovered, we talk a lot about Asirtiko from Santorini. I've had very nice Asirtiko from Paros, for instance, and I've had great wine from the mainland, some wine made by family and family friends over in Greece. Has there been wine from beyond Santorini that you've had the chance to drink and the chance to enjoy?
Yes, there was. We've had some Muscatino, which is a very aromatic varietal, which I kind of also enjoyed. Did not have a big introduction to the varietal, but it's from Namibia, which is from the mainland. But yeah, very almost muscat aromas, but beautiful palate, high in acidity. A varietal that I think also stood out the last couple of days for me. So Muscatino has a lot of that more sweet perception on nose, but quite a very pleasant palate.
It's clearly a voyage of discovery for both of our South African exports. Yannis, I am over, as we've said, and I'm going to be drinking some wine with you in Athens towards the end of August. By the time I get there, I will have sampled plenty of other wines, and I know you're very kindly introducing me to some of your fellow winemakers to join me on the show over the course of August. What for you is other than Asirtiko, really exciting about Greek wine, and what varietals, what regions should I be keeping a lookout for during my travels in the coming weeks?
I think look at a lot of new and previously forgotten grape varieties are springing up because people are doing more research and looking more into obscure varieties. So you have new stars being born every year in the Greek wine scene. I think you ought to look out for the Robola from Cephalonia, which is a very interesting grape variety, and Vidiano from Crete. Those are two white varieties. And then in terms of the reds, I always have an affection for Zinomavro, which is quite well known, and I think you should try as many as you can while you're here. But since you're going to be touring the Peloponnese, I think you should also try and taste a few Mavrodaphnes, which traditionally made sweet wine, but lately some excellent examples of dry red wine are being made.
And that actually leads to the point that I was going to raise, in that we tend to think of Greece, led by Asirtiko, as being a white wine producing nation. But there is a lot of red wine being made. There are the varieties that you have just mentioned. Is it a bit of a quirk? Is it a much smaller section, or is red wine playing a more important role in the Greek wine story?
Look, it's quite important, and one of our biggest PDOs, PDO Nemea, with its Ayurgetico grape, is at the forefront of the red wine part of Greece. And we don't do a lot of red wines, but in my very humble opinion, I think that the Greek red wines have been held back by some, let's say, obsession of trying to create big, bold, over-extracted wines with a lot of barrel aging. And I clearly think that this is the wrong way for Greece to go down. So lately, I think we're producing some lighter, crispier, more aromatic, more fruity, less extracted red wines. And I think these are going to be the ones that are going to be the revelation over the next decade in Greece.
And the style of red wine we're seeing more and more of in South Africa. We're not losing those big blockbusters, but we are seeing a lot of subtler and gentler interpretations, and I think that broadens our wine horizon rather nicely. Petri, quick one before we say goodbye to you. I won't ask you if you're starting another wine estate next year, because you probably are. That seems to be the process. But you're certainly having a lot of fun with the ones you've got at the moment. Give us a quick update on Pink Valley, which you also keep a firm guiding hand over. What's been happening of late, and how are the new plantings going? Because if I'm not mistaken, you've put some new vines in there as well.
Yes, so at Pink Valley, we've actually planted a new block of Sangiovese. So our 22 vintage is looking extremely well. And we actually chop and change that up a bit. So the 21 vintage that's on the market at the moment is a Grenache Syrah Sangiovese blend. And for 2022, because the Sangiovese and the amazing variety that is, and the amazing variety that it is to work with, especially for Rosé, we did 80% Rosé, 80% Sangiovese, and 20% Grenache. So the Sangiovese that we planted at Pink Valley, we're going to use for the Rosé production, and it's a beautiful table grape trellised vineyards. It's going to bear a lot, higher yields, better for the Rosé, less concentrated. So the 22 vintage is definitely a vintage that you need to look out for, and we're super excited to see how it's going to be. All Sangiovese Rosé coming from South Africa. I definitely think that's something to look out for.
And possibly enough to keep Petri in South Africa and not dashing off to do a harvest in Santorini, which I guarantee you he's thinking about at the moment. Final comment from our team in Santorini. Leandri, what's been the absolute highlight of your time in Greece so far?
There's a lot to this place. Gwen, first of all, we've spent a lot of time now, but apart from that, no, Santorini is a beautiful place. And I think more the culture that has stood out, not just around wine, but around the place as well, and the history. And for me to put Santorini in one word is almost impossible, but it's been incredible. And I think that everyone should visit Santorini and understood what the island is all about, apart from being touristy about it. Because there's a lot more to this place, a lot more to the wines, a lot more to the varieties to see. Yeah.
I see Yannis is nodding there. He definitely agrees everybody should visit Santorini. Leandri, are we allowed to know what is next? Are you going to stay on in Santorini? I know you're done with Takara. Have you decided yet? And if so, are you allowed to tell us what's next on your wine journey?
Yes, I can tell you. So I'm leaving Santorini at the end of August, and I'll be back in South Africa for about 2 weeks, and then I'll be leaving to France, where I'll be doing a harvest with Chant for about 3 months.
Oh, fantastic. The travels continue, as does the journey through wine. That is fabulous. What about for you, Gwen? Is there a single moment, a single highlight so far of the Greek adventure that's trumped all the others?
I mean, it's difficult to explain it to people, but it's, for me, the biggest thing that's hit me is how much it feels like home. Like when I've traveled in the past, you feel like you're in a different place. And when I arrived here, just the vibe, the culture. I mean, obviously people are speaking a different language, but it's actually quite relaxing because I don't have to pay too much attention. But it feels like we're at home. It feels the same. It feels really nice to be in a place where wine culture is appreciated, and people are very passionate about it and trying to learn more and are fascinated about South Africa. And it's just been an amazing experience. And like I said at the start, the fact that we're in a beautiful place is just a bonus, because everything else has been so fantastic.
can see just how much you are enjoying yourself. You've got two great lieutenants with you, Yannis. You'll be saying goodbye to them soon, but the memories will certainly live on there as you continue to build up this wonderful wine tradition you've got going in Santorini. What for you does the future look like? What is keeping you excited about not just your own vineyard, but about wine in Santorini and about wine in Greece?
Look, for us, I think the most important part is that we're a young estate, and I think we've just gone over the hump. It's been a very difficult 8 years. We had the Greek crisis, then we had the pandemic, and it's starting to show like we're gonna have better days, which on certain times we thought that they would never come. Over the last couple of years, we've started planting a lot. We've planted about 12 hectares. So what's exciting for us is to see those new vineyards coming to fruition and getting fruit from those. We've done a couple of experiments that they seem to be going the way we would have liked them to go. So maybe we'll have a couple of other wines on the market soon. And look, we're the whole team is young. We're always on the lookout to grow the winery, experiment with new things, try unusual stuff, meet new people, and do different things. So yeah, we're excited that for the next few years for what's about to come.
That more immediate horizon is some wine with me in Athens, which I'm really looking forward to. If you want to try Yannis's wine, go and follow Ian Nadir on social media. He's just about sold out, but you might be able to get one or two last bottles from him of this current vintage of Assyrtiko, and drink it not just to enjoy what really is a terrific wine, but also drink it to get a glimpse at what might be lying ahead for us here in South Africa. Team Santorini, thank you so much for joining us for a beautiful evening on an equally beautiful island, and I will be seeing you in Greece in a few weeks' time, and it won't be too long before I'm back down to one of my favourite spots, and enjoying the Chant with you. So to Leandri and to Gwen and to Yannis and to Petri, guys, thank you very, very much for joining us on the show this evening, and really appreciate the time with all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. And my next show will be in Greece on Monday. I shall be in Monevasia, and I will be broadcasting from there and talking to some local winemakers as I begin my wine journey through Greece for a month. Not making wine like Leandri and Gwen, but certainly drinking a bit of it and definitely enjoying it, because the wines of Greece are on the up and up and up, and the wines of Vassaltis are as good a point as any to introduce yourself to Hellenic wine. Which leaves me with one last video to show you for this evening's show. It's another look at Santorini, and this is also with Yannis, and a chance to have a look at his property and at the winemaking that is done in Santorini. That does it for now. I'll see you from Greece on Monday evening. Have a lovely weekend. Thanks for joining us. See you next week. Goodbye.
Good morning. As promised, I'm in one of our vineyards to show you what the Santorini vineyard looks like. As you can see, all the vines are pruned in a bush-like shape. We keep them very low to the ground in bushes. The reason for this is to protect them from the very strong winds that we have in the springtime just after bud break. The other problem that we have is that we have a lot of sunshine. So what we need to do is we need to cover the grapes with the foliage of the plant in order to provide some shade so we don't get sunburns. So here is a typical basket vine of Santorini. I will show you a picture later on from plants that we've uprooted, because now you cannot understand due to all the foliage on top. But the theory is that you keep it low to the ground. It's protected from the wind because all the grapes, they grow inside the plant. So the plant itself protects the grapes from the wind, and therefore you get a nice and healthy crop. This is the traditional way of pruning in Santorini. This is what the Santorini vineyard looks like, but I'm sure we'll get the opportunity to discuss more when you join me at the Zoom tasting. Thanks, bye.
To join the Pick and Pay Wine Club, simply SMS your smart shopper number to 36775. It's absolutely free, and you'll get for yourself 3 times the smart shopper points on every bottle of wine bought. You'll also get a 20% discount on 10 different wines each month, a 25% discount on a case of wine, and a Magnum, some terrific competitions and invitations to awesome events.